Hi, everyone, and welcome to SLM Live, a virtual event series hosted by St. Louis Magazine. My name is Amanda Woytus, and I'm the magazine's deputy editor. And I am so thrilled tonight to be joined by Janet Evra, who is a local singer, musician, composer, songwriter, and Kranzberg Music Artist in residence. And she also just released a new single called Summer Love Song. And in the upcoming August issue of St. Louis Magazine, which have right here, you can check out our story on Janet and Summer Love Song. And you can also go online and stream it on Spotify and on Janet's YouTube channel. Janet, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda. It's my pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So I really want to talk to you about Summer Love Song, but first I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about your background and introduce our viewers to you. One thing that really intrigued me when we first started connecting was that you're from Gloucester, correct?
That's correct, yes.
But I think of jazz as this sort of very American music genre. So I'm interested in knowing, how did you kind of connect with this music? Why jazz? What attracted you to it? And how did you kind of start playing?
Well, I grew up in a very musical household in Gloucester, in England, in the UK. And yeah, my parents would be playing music a lot. Yeah. And some of it was jazz. And so, I would be listening to this gorgeous music with the fun, free melodies and the textures and the rhythms and just like really loving it, but not really knowing what it was, even before I really knew what I was listening to. And then I got older and figured, oh, this is jazz. I really like this. And then learning that so much of what I listened to was improvised, like totally blew my mind. So yeah, fell in love with that. And then the thing that hooked me in even harder was bossa nova and samba from Brazil and Latin America, also in my dad's CD collection. And we would listen to, Gilberto and Jobim tunes and just, yeah, loved the instrumentation and the rhythms of the melodies. It was gorgeous stuff. And I started learning the guitar as a teenager, and some of the first songs that I learned were some of those bossa nova tunes. So then I just never looked back.
That's great. What about the first time you remember like performing on stage? What was that like?
Yeah, I think the first time I performed on stage was with my sister. I have an older sister, and mum and dad were always very supportive, if not too supportive, of the two of us playing together. So I think our first performance was in a local pub, and we were on a tiny stage in the corner wearing matching shirts and playing two guitars, and she sang the lower harmonies and I sang the higher harmonies. Yeah, it was fun.
I should tell our viewers, we have a chat function and a Q&A function. So let us know your questions for Janet, drop those in, and towards the end of the interview, we'll take some questions and do a Q&A. Okay, so performing with Sis in a coffee house. Let's fast forward a little bit. How did you come to the United States and, specifically the St. Louis region? How did you get here?
Yeah, so in Europe, it's quite common for people to take a gap year after high school and before college. So that's what I did. I came over to see more of the world, and specifically to take a 1-year kind of enrichment program at a local college, Principia College over in Illinois. And then I was going to go back and study English literature in the north of England. But I really liked the program and decided to stay and do the degree. And then I met and married an American, and 10 years later, I'm still here living in St. Louis and making music.
Well, that's such a boon for us. Let's talk about Summer Love Song. I love that it's so like light and bright and beachy, and just a very like warm summery song. And your voice is so gorgeous. What was sort of the inspiration for the music?
Well, these are tough times,
yeah.
And COVID's got everybody down. And some people are struggling more than others, and there are race issues in St. Louis, and people are protesting, and I support that. And That's so important. But I think there's always a space for beauty and joy, and that's what I try and do with my music. So for this song, it's very light and fluffy and beachy. It started with some chords and a melody that popped into my head and just would not leave. And then I just decided to kind of take the challenge of making it the beachiest, most fun song that I could for a summer jam. And it became Summer Love Song. And yeah, we recorded it at home. We had congas and a shaker for the percussion. I added a bass line, and we have a nylon string guitar. We've got kind of a surf rock sounding electric guitar on there as well. But my favorite part is the trumpet part by my fellow Kranzberg Music Artist in Residence, Brady Lewis. He added this whole set of trumpet bits that are just so fun, so tasty. So yeah, that was just what I was looking for.
And I also love, so you got to also record a music video for it, and it's just, it has this like beautiful kind of like vintagey filter over it, and it's just very, very beautiful looking. And was that sort of a, like speaking of challenges, doing that in this time when we're supposed to be, you know, social distancing, like how was that, how did you kind of work around that and make the music video?
Yeah, so we started with the audio alone, and most of it we recorded right here in my living room. Usually we record in, you know, fancy studios with separate booths and the sound baffles and everything to isolate the sound. But this is my living room, so we got a heavy blanket and draped it over my head and the microphone, and that's how I recorded the vocals for Summer Love Song. And then the other parts, yeah, just kind of tried to baffle as well as we could and put them all together.
Yeah.
And we sent them off to have some professional help from Soho Studios. Jason McIntyre at Soho Studios in South City did an excellent job mixing. And then we sent it on to Brad Sano at Blue Jay Mastering, also in St. Louis, for mastering. So what came out of a very low budget creative process, I think has ended up with like some high quality stuff thanks to Jason and Brad. So
yeah, it sounds and looks amazing. And I think it's just, I think so many people are getting creative during this time to still be, and I think it's such a credit to show, you know, artists don't stop creating even in times of crises. So it's just so cool that you were still able to do this, and really cool. And you mentioned that you recorded in your living room, and I read that your husband Will works with you on your music. What is that sort of part of your relationship like? I feel like some people can work with their spouses, and some people just really cannot.
Well, I'll say it's usually a lot of fun working with
Sometimes.
yeah, like usually, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, we're both, you know, creative types and we both have our opinions. But, you know, I think we're in general agreement on most things and we both love this music. So it works together. And I'll say that one big plus is that scheduling rehearsals is really easy.
Yeah, totally. And everyone has so much free time now, right?
Yes.
House. You mentioned Brady, who's a fabulous trumpet player. And I should also mention you play upright bass. What was it like learning that instrument?
You know, learning the bass is still fairly new for me. I've just been learning for about 3 years, and I still feel like I'm learning and probably will be forever. But it's such a fun instrument. It's so big. It's bigger than me, but it's such a full, warm sound, and I really enjoy playing it live and kind of holding down the rhythms in the bass and the roots of the chords while singing over the top in a completely different melody. That kind of juxtaposition is really fun for me.
That's awesome. Speaking of, you know, like the physicality of performing, of playing an instrument, what has this time been like where, you know, artists can't gather and perform live? You know, we're not encouraged to be indoors in large groups. just talking with some other artists for another story I was working on, it's been really life-changing to not be able to go out to perform, to see live music. What has this been kind of like for you?
Well, I do miss live music so much, both playing and listening. But yeah, there are some opportunities here for sure. So, I've been listening to lots of local musicians doing live streams and virtual shows. And I think, if anything, I've been listening more to local artists now because they're, as you say, they're getting really creative and putting out new, fresh stuff that's, maybe they've had to put it on pause while they were so busy touring and gigging, but now that they're at home, they've unleashed it on the world, and it's really good stuff. So some of my favorites right now, for example, in St. Louis are Sample Culture, Brady Lewis, of course, the BLS Tet, the 442s, Milena Smith, Anita Jackson, Ryan Marquez, Ian Lubar. There's too many. There's way more than even those amazing folks. So it's been fun to listen to that, and it makes you feel less alone. Yeah.
That's kind of an interesting question. What do you feel like music's role is in times of just really challenging times? Is it, pure distraction? Is it kind of speaking to a set of larger truths? Is it all of these things, and it just kind of depends on the artist and the situation? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think music is such a great connector. It can connect on an emotional level. I mean, it sort of is hardwired into our brain to reach us in this special location that no words can reach us, but music can. And I mean, with the local scene, there's something for everyone with music. There really is. There's people doing stuff that has more angst, and sometimes you need that. And there's people doing stuff that's like so creative and wild, and your ears just hooked. And there's people like me that are sort of more on the chill, sort of happy side. It's a whole swath of different people doing different music, and I think that it can just reach us in such a deep way. And for me, I think, I love to sing in foreign languages. And right now, so for example, I'm learning a couple of songs in French and a couple of songs in Spanish. And for me, that music takes me abroad. So even if I can't fly there right now, it just takes me to another place. And that's something very special to me.
That's so interesting. What age did you start learning those languages and learning how to sing in different languages?
I think I was maybe 11, and I started learning them in school. I actually went to a school that focused on languages, so I was very fortunate. But yeah, I took French, German, Spanish, Portuguese, even a little bit of Mandarin, and it was really fun. So, but now a lot of it's rusty, and mostly I just know the words for love, things like that.
Do you have a favorite to sing in? Oh, do you have a favorite language to sing in?
Ooh, that's tough. Either French or Portuguese.
Yeah, those are really beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of, language's power to transport, and also like music's power to sort of lift our spirits and remove us from things that might be going on. Let's sort of imagine a world in which, we're sort of back to normal. COVID is under control. You go out for your first live performance since this all started. Like, what is that going to feel like for you?
Well, I love the thought experiment, but actually I've already started playing it out a little bit with the outdoor shows, so I can tell you what it felt like.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, people are observing social distancing and wearing masks, and that's so important to limit the spread of COVID. It's still a bit strange, and it's not like it used to be, but the people that are there, really appreciate it, and you appreciate them, and there's this sort of feeling of mutual affection for each other. And I'm seeing lots of organizations and venues coming up with creative ways to support live music and present music content that's consistent with, CDC guidelines and local rules. So yeah, the few gigs that I have, I put them on my website, but we're sort of not encouraging anyone to come, which is a bit strange, but it really is, it's up to anyone to decide what their comfort level is and their risk tolerance and all of those things. And if I may be shameless for just a moment, so I'm mentioning my website, I saw that when you had your previous interviewee, Justin Willman, on, he brought some merch with him. And I'm a huge fan of his, by the way. So I thought I should show my merch too. So this is my debut album, Ask Her to Dance.
Very nice.
And so yeah, this is my merch right now. But yeah, so if you can't go out, you can still listen to my music. It's available to stream on all the platforms like iTunes and Pandora and all those things, Spotify, or you can be old school and buy a copy of the CD through my website. But anyway, that's my shameless merch plug.
Yeah. And I think we often forget about, when we think about like supporting artists, obviously coming out and seeing you streaming your work, but I think a lot of us forget about actually purchasing like old school merch. So that's really great. And your website is janetevra.com, just for anyone who might be interested in going there and checking it out. And so it sounds like we can find where you'll be performing on your website as well. So that's great. What else is next for you? What else can we plug?
I'm so glad you asked. Well, so I'm working on a bunch of things. This fall, I'll be recording a single through a label that I've just signed to for the single, Lowtown Studios here in England. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a great record label. So that's coming soon. Then I'm also writing songs for my second record to follow, Ask Her to Dance. And finally, I think, I'm trying to book some tours and shows for 2021. Hoping and fingers crossed that everything will go ahead. Like we were booked at several jazz festivals this summer, including one in Finland and one in Denmark. And it sounds like those are going to just rebook the same lineup for next summer. So hopefully we'll be on our way to Finland next summer.
Oh my God, it sounds like amazing right now.
Yes.
What's the process of, writing been like when you're at home and like, I don't know if it's the same way for you, but sometimes when I read the news too much, then I don't really feel like doing anything creative, such as writing. How do you are you the same way, or do you find more of an escape, or maybe you're just more disciplined than I am? What's that like for you?
Sure. Well, I will say in the first month of staying at home, sheltering in place, the discipline was just out the window, and all the gigs were canceling, and I just did not get around to much writing. But since then, it is starting to feel like more of a silver lining just to have this time to be at home. And we've got rudimentary recording equipment and we've got our instruments, and it's kind of a creative space. So I've been working on, as I said, songs for the second album, and they're coming together a lot faster than they would have done if we were gigging. So hopefully that will be kind of a benefit, is if we can move that timeline up and and just have more new music to share. But I will say that the discipline, is not super disciplined still. I'm letting myself do it at my own speed.
It's so interesting because I always told myself if I had more time, if I didn't have other commitments, I would get so much more writing done. And that's not accurate. So, I don't know.
100%.
Anything you can tease about the second album? Inspiration, kind of like mood? Can we expect sort of more of the summer love song sound? Anything different that you're doing? What's the mood and feeling like?
Mm, yeah, so the way I hear it in my head is it will have a lot of the same bossa nova flavors,
Yeah.
jazz instrumentation, um, and overall kind of beachy feel as the first record and a summer love song. But I think also will probably feature more indie type sounds. So, and sometimes it's hard to describe what indie means, but I think you kind of know it when you hear it. And some of it will feature some different kind of guitars, some different synth sounds, some different percussion sounds that are just a little different to what we've heard before. So to encapsulate the sound, if I had to right now, I would say indie bossa is
I
what it's
love
going to sound
that.
like. Yeah.
That's great. Why don't we jump over and see if we have some questions from our audience? Okay, so someone is asking, how did it feel to perform with, I'm gonna probably mess this person's name up, I apologize. Diego, would you like to finish? You know what I'm talking about?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I performed with Diego Figueiredo
Yeah,
last.
would have been
It's a gorgeous long Brazilian name.
yeah.
Yeah, so he's a virtuoso guitar player who I first came across on YouTube, and he was playing with one of my favorite contemporary singers, Cyril Aimé, a French singer, and it's just his skill and musicality just blew me away. So last year we saw that he was coming through Chicago on a national tour and reached out to his agent and said, how would Diego like to have a gig in St. Louis with me?
Yeah.
Yeah, and fortunately, the date was free and he was interested and said yes. So the Kranzberg Arts Foundation helped make that happen. So we played the gig with Diego and my band at the Grandel Theatre in Grand Center. And it was, boy, it might have been the highlight of my musical life because it was just a wonderful, wonderful show. And he's such a nice guy. And the week after he played with us, he was nominated for a Grammy. So,
So awesome.
yeah.
Anyone else sort of like on your wish list who you would love to play with, collaborate with, just share a stage with?
Well, it's a long wish list,
Yeah.
but maybe the singer that I mentioned, Cyril Aimé, might be at the top. She's just an incredible scat singer and just wonderful stage presence and writes beautiful music, the whole bit. So yeah, she might be at the top. But
Yeah.
Diego's up there too. If I could have him back, I would.
Awesome. Um, let's see. Someone asked, love your sofa sesh videos. Where can I find them all?
Oh yeah. So I've been doing some sofa sesh type videos here in my living room on my teal colored sofa with the dog sometimes. And yeah, we're putting all of those on my YouTube channel. So if you Google, Janet Evra, YouTube, sofa sesh, there should be, I think, 5 or 6 of them now.
Okay.
We started the series before COVID, so there were a couple with guest artists, but now it's just me and Will on our sofa. But yeah, we're trying to keep putting stuff out and keeps it fresh.
Awesome. Someone asked, where can I see you perform in town? Sounds like check your website, janetevra.com. Someone says, I hear you're popular in Japan. Have you toured there?
Well, I hope I'm popular in Japan. Yeah, so we have been in touch with a Japanese music distributor and producer, and he has been selling my album, my debut album,
Okay.
Oscar Dance. He's ordered hundreds of copies now, so I'm assuming it's selling well. And on top of that, I have a couple of friends that live in Japan, so it would be really fun to go there. So yeah, that's on my wish list for sure for touring next when we're able to. So watch this space.
Yeah. Any other top places that you would love to travel to where you've never been to perform?
Well, besides Finland,
That's
um, hopefully next year. Yeah. I'd love to go down to Brazil and South America. I've spent some time in Mexico, but not too many other places on the continent. So yes, actually, when Diego was, wrapping up the show, we were saying goodbye. He said, come on down to Brazil. I'll get you some shows. We can play together. So that's high on the list for sure. That would be dream come true to play in Brazil with Diego. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Is there a song that's your favorite to cover or one that you would like to cover?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question. I'll tell you my favorite right now that I'm learning. It's a French jazz tune called Sous le ciel de Paris, which means under the Paris sky. And it's just like the quintessential Paris song about lovers walking around Paris and the sights that they see and how it feels. And it's just so delightful. So
that's nice. That's again very like take me away. Like,
exactly.
So I love that. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. What are the differences you've noticed between American concert goers and other countries?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, well, so I'll provide an anecdote. So last summer, I had the great fortune to play in Romania at the Deva Jazz Festival. It's actually in Transylvania, which I didn't realize was in Romania until we looked it up. But it's gorgeous, gorgeous countryside. Not just the vampires, but the countryside's great. And yeah, the people that came to the festival they just reminded me a lot of enthusiastic American crowds, and they knew so many of the songs too, which was amazing. I mean, I think American music, American jazz has made it around the world, and that's really fun to see in person. Yeah.
Maybe one last question, it looks like. This is a good one. So when you write a new song, do you tend to start with the lyrics or the music first, or does it kind of vary? And they want to know, Holly wants to know, do you and Will collaborate on every song, or is it, sort of like more you or more him?
Yeah, great questions. Yeah, so when I write a new song, it almost always starts with the chords on a guitar. It starts with, the harmonic foundation. And then sometimes a melody will pop into my head immediately with the chords, like with Summer Love Song, or sometimes it comes later. And then the lyrics come at the very end when I've decided kind of the feel that the music is telling me. And then with Will, it's really a good collaboration, and we both bring ideas to each other. And we both have input on all of the songs, so there's no like veto power where we decide like, no, I'm doing this song my way. But no, yeah, some songs are definitely more him and some are more me, but they're all truly collaborations, which is fun.
That's really sweet. That's great. Okay, it looks like we have answered all the questions from our audience. Thank you so much for doing that. And this feels like a good note to end on. I think we hit everything, right? So again, thank you so much for being here. JanetEvra.com is your website to find out more about you and where you're going to be playing. Summer Love Song, it sounds like you can find on all the streaming platforms, Spotify, also on your YouTube channel to check out that gorgeous music video. And also the August issue of St. Louis Magazine. And our story is live on our website at stlmag.com. So give it a listen. It is such a great, beautiful, beachy little escape. Just really transports you and makes you forget for a little while what is going on. Janet, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Amanda. This was fun. And thank you to everyone that wrote questions. And thanks to Melissa for organizing the Zoom. And yeah, this has been really nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our viewers. We appreciate it. Okay, everyone, have a great night. Thank you.